I always believed I knew who I was. A husband. A provider. A man who lived a simple, predictable life. That illusion shattered the night my wife smiled at me in a way I had never seen before. It started innocently enough. It was a rainy Friday evening. The kind where the world feels distant and quiet, wrapped in the steady rhythm of falling water. I had just returned home from work, exhausted, my shirt slightly damp from the humidity. The house smelled faintly of jasmine and something sweet, vanilla, maybe. Ayesha? I called out, loosening my tie. In the bedroom, her voice floated back, calm, but different. There was something in her tone I couldn't place. I stepped inside and paused. She was sitting at the edge of the bed, legs crossed, wearing a deep maroon dress I didn't recognize. Her hair was styled more carefully than usual, cascading over her shoulders. The room was softly lit, almost theatrical. And then I noticed it. Clothes. Not just any clothes, women's clothes, laid out neatly on the bed beside her. A silk blouse. A skirt. Stockings. And heels. My stomach tightened. What's all this? I asked, half laughing, expecting a simple explanation. A joke. A surprise party. Anything. But she didn't laugh. Instead, she tilted her head and studied me. Sit down, she said gently. Something in me hesitated. But I obeyed. The mattress dipped under my weight as I sat across from her, hyper-aware of the soft fabrics brushing against my hand. She reached forward and took my hand in hers. Do you trust me? The question hit harder than it should have. Of course I do, I replied. But what's going on? She smiled, slow, knowing. I want to show you something about yourself, she said. A strange unease settled in my chest. I think you've been hiding, she continued softly. Even from yourself. I pulled my hand back slightly. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Her gaze was sharp now. Observant. Like she had been watching me for a long time. Too long. Late nights, the way your eyes linger when we pass certain store displays, the way you touch fabrics when you think no one's looking. My heart skipped. You're imagining things, I said quickly. But even as I said it, my voice lacked conviction. She leaned closer. No. I've been paying attention. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Then she picked up the blouse. Try it. I laughed nervously. Very funny. I'm serious. The room seemed to shrink. Ayesha, this isn't. Just try it, she interrupted, her voice firm now. For me. I stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. But she didn't move. Didn't argue. She just watched me, calmly. Confidently. Like she already knew how this would end. Why does it scare you? She asked quietly. That question stopped me cold. Scare me? I'm not scared, I said defensively. Then prove it. Her words lingered in the air. Prove it. I looked at the blouse again. Soft. Elegant. Completely foreign. And yet. Something deep inside me stirred. Something I had ignored for years. Buried. Dismissed. I clenched my fists. This doesn't mean anything, I muttered. Of course not, she replied smoothly. It's just clothes. Just clothes. That was all. Right? With a shaky breath, I reached for the blouse. My fingers trembled slightly as I held it up. The fabric felt impossibly smooth against my skin. I hesitated. This stays between us, I said. Ayesha smiled. Of course. Something about that smile made my pulse quicken. I turned away from her and slowly removed my shirt. The air felt colder against my skin. For a moment, I almost stopped. Almost laughed it off and walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I slipped one arm into the blouse, then the other. The fabric slid over my shoulders. Light. Delicate. Wrong, and yet strangely right. I buttoned it up, my hands clumsy. Then I turned around. Ayesha's expression changed instantly. Her eyes softened. Darkened. Sparked with something I couldn't quite understand. Well? I asked, suddenly self-conscious. She stood up slowly and walked toward me. You look, she began, her voice almost a whisper. She reached out and gently adjusted the collar. Beautiful. The word hit me like a shockwave. Don't say that, I said quickly. Why not? She asked, stepping closer. Because it felt dangerous. Because part of me didn't want her to stop. I swallowed hard. This is enough. I tried it. Happy? But she wasn't done. Not yet, she said softly. Her hand drifted down, picking up the skirt. My breath caught. Ayesha. Just one more step. Something in her tone had shifted again. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was control. You said you trust me. I looked at her. Then at the skirt. Then back at her. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want to say no. Slowly, reluctantly, I reached for it. And as I did, Ayesha smiled wider. A smile that made my heart race for reasons I didn't fully understand. Because deep down, I had the sudden, chilling feeling that this wasn't just a game. That this night was going to change everything. The skirt felt heavier than I expected. Not physically, but mentally. I held it in both hands, staring at it like it might somehow decide things for me. Like it might tell me whether this was still harmless, or if I had already crossed some invisible line. Ayesha, I started again, my voice quieter now. She didn't interrupt this time. She just watched. Patient. Certain. That certainty unsettled me more than anything else. This doesn't mean anything, I repeated, though now it sounded more like I was trying to convince myself. Of course, she said softly. It's just another piece of clothing. Just another piece. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like a step deeper. A step I might not be able to undo. Still. My fingers moved. I don't remember deciding. I only remember the moment I realized I had already started. I turned slightly away from her again, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. I unfastened my belt. Paused. Then continued. Each movement felt slower than the last, like time itself was stretching out just to make me feel every second of it. When I finally stepped into the skirt and pulled it up, my breath caught. It fit. Too well. As if she had planned this far more carefully than I had allowed myself to believe. I adjusted it awkwardly, unsure of where to place my hands, how to stand, how to exist in this unfamiliar version of myself. Then I turned back. Ayesha didn't speak right away. Her eyes moved over me, taking everything in, not with mockery, not even with surprise. But with satisfaction. You see, she said at last. I swallowed. This is strange. Yes, she agreed. But not wrong. That word again. Not wrong. I wasn't sure I believed her. But I also wasn't sure I didn't. She stepped closer, circling me slowly. The soft sound of her footsteps seemed louder now, echoing in the quiet room. You've spent so long trying to be one thing, she said. So controlled. So certain. Her fingers lightly brushed the sleeve of the blouse I was wearing. What if you don't have to be? I let out a shaky breath. I am who I am. Are you? She asked gently. The question lingered between us. Unanswered. Uncomfortable. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure. She moved in front of me again, her gaze locking onto mine. Look at yourself, she said. I frowned slightly. What? The mirror, she nodded behind me. I hesitated. Then slowly turned. For a moment. I didn't recognize the person staring back. The blouse softened my frame. The skirt changed the way I stood. Even the way I held my shoulders felt different, less rigid, less guarded. It wasn't just what I was wearing. It was how I was, becoming aware of myself. This isn't me, I said quickly. But my voice lacked strength. Ayesha stepped up behind me, her reflection appearing over my shoulder. Her hands rested lightly on my arms. Then why can't you stop looking, she whispered. I froze. Because she was right. I should have looked away immediately. Should have laughed. Should have dismissed it. But I didn't. I kept staring. Trying to understand what I was feeling. And failing. Her hands moved slightly, guiding my posture. Relax, she murmured. I didn't realize how tense I had been until I let my shoulders drop. There, she said softly. That's better. Better. Why did it feel better? A strange warmth spread through me. Not excitement. Not exactly. But something close to relief. And that scared me. I turned away from the mirror abruptly. That's enough, I said, more firmly this time. Ayesha didn't argue. But she didn't step back either. Is it? She asked. Yes. Then take it off. I blinked. What? If it means nothing, she continued calmly, if it's just a joke, then take it off. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Because I could. Of course I could. There was nothing stopping me. Nothing forcing me to stay like this. Nothing at all. And yet. I didn't move. Seconds passed. Then more. Ayesha tilted her head slightly, her expression soft but knowing. That's what I thought, she said quietly. A flicker of something passed through me, frustration, confusion, something deeper. This doesn't prove anything, I said. Maybe not, she replied. But it tells us something. Us. That word lingered. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was something she had been thinking about. Planning. Understanding in a way I hadn't. She stepped back slightly and picked something else up from the bed. The stockings. My chest tightened again. Ayesha. Just feel, she said gently. You don't have to understand it yet. I stared at the delicate fabric in her hands. This felt different from before. More intimate. More deliberate. And yet. That same pull remained. Stronger now. More insistent. Like a quiet voice I had ignored for years was finally being heard. I exhaled slowly. Why are you doing this? I asked. Her expression softened. Because I love you, she said. The answer disarmed me. And I want you to be free, she added. Free. The word echoed in my mind. Free from what? From who? From myself? She stepped closer again, holding the stockings out toward me. I looked at them. Then at her. Then back again. And in that moment, I realized something that made my pulse race. This wasn't just about trying something new anymore. This was about discovery. Change. And maybe. Something irreversible. My hand slowly lifted. Reaching toward the stockings. But just before my fingers touched them. A sharp sound cut through the air. The front door. Opening. Ayesha's eyes widened. Mine did too. We both froze. Because there was only one person who could be coming in unannounced at this hour. And they were not supposed to see me like this. Not like this. Not tonight. Footsteps echoed faintly from the hallway. Getting closer. Ayesha turned to me quickly, her voice suddenly urgent. Don't move. But it was too late. The bedroom door handle began to turn. The door creaked open. Time seemed to stop. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, blouse, skirt, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. Ayesha didn't move. Didn't speak. Didn't even breathe. The handle turned fully, and the door slowly pushed inward. Hello, a voice called from the hallway. My stomach dropped. I knew that voice. Farhan. My younger brother. What are you doing here? I whispered urgently. Ayesha shot me a sharp look, pressing a finger to her lips. Stay quiet, she mouthed. But it was too late for that. His footsteps were already inside the house. I thought I saw your car outside, Farhan continued casually. You guys didn't pick up your phones. His voice got closer. Closer. Every step tightened the pressure in my chest. I looked around wildly. There was nowhere to go. No time to change. No explanation that would make sense. Ayesha grabbed my wrist suddenly, her grip firm. This way, she whispered. Before I could react, she pulled me toward the bathroom. We slipped inside just as Farhan reached the bedroom doorway. The door clicked shut behind us. Darkness. Silence. Except for the sound of my breathing, too loud, too fast. Ayesha pressed her hand gently against my chest. Quiet, she whispered again. I nodded, trying to steady myself. Outside, I heard the faint creak of the bedroom floor. Farhan had entered. Bye, he called. I shut my eyes. This couldn't be happening. Not like this. Strange, he muttered. Lights are on. I could picture him looking around. Noticing things. The clothes on the bed. The atmosphere. Everything. Ayesha leaned closer, her voice barely audible. He can't see you like this. I know, I whispered back. But knowing didn't solve anything. My mind raced. Think. Think. But all I could focus on was how exposed I felt. How vulnerable. How real this suddenly was. This wasn't private anymore. This wasn't just between us. This was the world intruding. Judging. Questioning. Destroying everything. Outside, I heard movement. Fabric shifting. My stomach twisted. He's going to notice, I breathed. Ayesha's eyes locked onto mine. No, she said quietly. He won't. There was something in her tone again. That same calm certainty. But this time. It felt different. More intense. More intentional. What do you mean? I asked. Before she could answer. Ayesha? Farhan's voice called out. Closer now. Right outside the bathroom. My heart slammed against my ribs. I'm here, Ayesha replied, her voice suddenly normal, composed. How long have you been home? He asked. Not long, she said smoothly. What are you doing in the bathroom? I stared at her, stunned by how quickly she shifted. Just getting ready, she answered. Give me a minute. There was a pause. Then. All right, but why are there women's clothes all over the bed? Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. I felt my pulse spike again. This was it. This was where everything fell apart. I turned to Ayesha, panic rising in my chest. But she didn't look panicked. She looked thoughtful. Like she had been expecting this moment. Like she had already decided something. And then. She smiled. Not at Farhan. At me. A slow, deliberate smile that made something tighten deep inside me. Ayesha, I whispered, shaken. But she didn't respond. Instead, she raised her voice slightly. Oh, she said casually, that's because I was trying something. Farhan sounded confused. Trying what? Aisha's eyes stayed locked on mine. Unblinking. Steady. And then she said it. Something that made my breath catch completely. I was helping your brother. The silence that followed was suffocating. What? Farhan said, startled. I felt the ground beneath me disappear. Aisha stepped closer to the bathroom door. My hand shot out instinctively, grabbing her wrist. Don't, I whispered urgently. She looked down at my hand, then back at me. There was no hesitation in her expression. Only resolve. Trust me, she said softly. The same words from earlier. But now. They carried weight. Consequences. Before I could stop her. She reached for the handle. My chest tightened. Everything in me screamed to stop this. To hide. To undo everything. But my body wouldn't move. Because deep down. Part of me knew. This moment had been coming. The door began to open. Light spilled in. And as it did, I saw Farhan standing there. His eyes lifting. Meeting mine. Taking in everything. The blouse. The skirt. The truth. His expression changed instantly. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. And then. Something else. Something I couldn't read. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. And then Farhan finally said, slowly. What is going on? The silence stretched. Heavy. Unforgiving. Farhan stood in the doorway, his eyes locked on me, studying me. Trying to make sense of what he was seeing. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Say something. Anything. But the words wouldn't come. Ayesha stepped forward first. Calm. Composed. Completely in control. It's not what you think, she said gently. Farhan blinked. I don't even know what to think, he replied. His gaze flickered between us. Then back to me. Bye. That single word carried confusion, concern, and something else. Expectation. Like he was waiting for me to correct everything. To laugh it off. To explain it away. This was my moment. I could end it here. Say it was a joke. A dare. A misunderstanding. All it would take was one sentence. But as I opened my mouth, nothing came out. Because any lie I could tell suddenly felt smaller than the truth I didn't yet understand. Ayesha noticed. Of course she did. She always did. It's something we were exploring, she said, her tone steady. Farhan frowned. Exploring what? His eyes returned to me, sharper now. Why are you dressed like that? The question hit directly. No escape. I swallowed hard. I started. But my voice faltered. Ayesha stepped closer to me, close enough that I could feel her presence grounding me. Because he wanted to try, she said. My head snapped slightly toward her. Wanted? Was that true? I didn't even know anymore. Farhan's expression shifted again. You wanted this, he asked, clearly struggling to process it. I hesitated. And in that hesitation, something changed. Because for the first time, I wasn't just afraid of being judged. I was afraid of denying something I didn't fully understand yet. I don't know, I admitted quietly. The honesty surprised even me. Farhan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. This is crazy, he muttered. No, Ayesha said softly. It's just unfamiliar. He looked at her. Unfamiliar? He's my brother. And he's still your brother, she replied calmly. That landed. I saw it in Farhan's face. The conflict. The confusion. The effort to reconcile what he knew with what he was seeing. He shook his head. I don't get it. You don't have to, Ayesha said. Not right now. Her voice wasn't defensive. It was reassuring. Like she wasn't trying to convince him. Just asking him to pause. To not react too quickly. Farhan looked back at me again. Longer this time. More carefully. You okay? He asked. The question caught me off guard. Not judgment. Not anger. Concern. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said, though my voice was still unsteady. I think so. Think so, he repeated. I let out a weak breath. This is new. That's one way to put it, he said under his breath. A small, awkward silence followed. Then Farhan glanced back at the bed. At the rest of the clothes. The stockings. The heels. And when he looked back at me, something had shifted again. Not acceptance. Not yet. But curiosity. So, what, this is like a one-time thing, he asked. The question hung in the air. I didn't answer immediately. Because I didn't know. Before tonight, I would have said yes, without hesitation. Now, I wasn't so sure. Ayesha watched me closely. Waiting. Not pushing. Just letting me decide. I don't know, I said again, more honestly this time. Farhan let out a slow breath. This is going to take some getting used to. That's fair, Ayesha replied. Another pause. Then. I should probably go, Farhan said suddenly. Relief flickered through me, but it was mixed with something else. Uncertainty. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. Yeah, I said quietly. He turned toward the door, then stopped. Looked back at me one last time. Bye. I met his eyes. He hesitated. Then said, just, be careful, okay? I frowned slightly. Careful of what? He gave a small, uncertain shrug. I don't know. Just, everything. And with that, he left. The front door closed a moment later. Silence returned to the house. But it felt different now. Heavier. Real. I stood there, still in the blouse and skirt, my thoughts racing. Well, Ayesha said softly behind me. I turned to her. That could have gone worse. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. You planned that, I said slowly. It wasn't a question. She didn't deny it. I didn't plan for him to walk in, she said. But I knew this couldn't stay hidden forever. My chest tightened. You wanted him to see? I wanted you to stop hiding, she replied. Her words landed deep. Too deep. This isn't just about clothes anymore, is it? I asked. She stepped closer. No, she said gently. It never was. A quiet tension filled the space between us. Then her gaze dropped, briefly, to the rest of the outfit waiting on the bed. The stockings. The heels. She looked back at me. This doesn't have to stop here, she said softly. My pulse quickened again. Not from fear this time. Something else. Something more complicated. After everything that just happened? I asked. She nodded. Especially after that. I stared at her. Trying to understand. Trying to understand myself. And then, slowly, I glanced toward the bed. At what was left. At what I hadn't yet tried. At the line I hadn't fully crossed. Yet. Ayesha followed my gaze. And when I looked back at her, she was smiling again. That same knowing smile. You're still curious, she said quietly. I didn't answer. Because I didn't need to. She already knew. And maybe. So did I. But just as I took a step toward the bed, my phone buzzed sharply in my pocket. The sudden sound made both of us jump slightly. I pulled it out, my brow furrowing. It was Farhan. A message. I opened it. And as I read it, my stomach dropped. Ayesha, I said slowly. Her expression shifted. What is it? I looked up at her, my pulse rising all over again. He didn't leave. A beat. He's outside. Another message appeared. This time, with a photo. My heart skipped. Because it wasn't just a picture of the house. It was a picture of the bedroom window. And the caption read, "We need to talk. Now." The air in the room turned cold. I stared at my phone, the message burning into my mind. He's outside. Watching. Waiting. Ayesha stepped closer. Show me. I handed her the phone. Her eyes scanned the screen, her expression tightening for the first time that night. He shouldn't be doing this, she said quietly. No, I replied, my voice tense. He shouldn't. Another buzz. A new message. If you don't come out, I'm coming back in. My chest tightened. This is getting out of hand, I muttered. Ayesha looked toward the window, then back at me. We need to handle this carefully. Carefully? I snapped under my breath. He's literally spying on us. He's confused, she said. And worried. And this is how he deals with it? She didn't answer. Because there was no good answer. Another vibration in my hand. This time, I didn't even want to look. But I did. Bye, please. Just talk to me. The tone had changed. Less aggressive. More desperate. I exhaled slowly. He's not going to leave, I said. No, Ayesha agreed. He's not. Silence fell between us again. Heavy. Complicated. Then she spoke, her voice softer now. You should go to him. I looked at her immediately. Like this? I gestured down at the blouse and skirt. A flicker of something passed through her eyes. Not doubt. Not hesitation. But awareness. This is exactly why you should go, she said. My heart skipped. You can't be serious. Why not, she asked. Because this, I gestured again, more sharply this time, this is already too much for him. And hiding will make it better, she countered. I didn't respond. Because deep down, I knew she had a point. If you go out there pretending nothing happened, she continued, he'll never understand. And neither will you. Her words hit harder than I expected. This isn't about him understanding, I said. It is, she replied. But more importantly, it's about you not running away. Running away. Was that what I was doing? Or was I just protecting myself? I don't even know what this is yet, I admitted. You don't have to, she said gently. You just have to stop pretending it's nothing. I looked down at myself. At the blouse. The skirt. They didn't feel as foreign as they had an hour ago. That realization sent a strange ripple through me. You're asking a lot, I said quietly. I know, she replied. Another buzz. This time, I read it immediately. I'm coming in. My eyes widened. He's serious. Ayesha nodded. Then you don't have time to decide slowly. My pulse spiked again. Think. Think. But there was no time. No perfect solution. Only choices. Difficult ones. I looked at the door. Then at the window. Then back at Ayesha. If I go out there like this, I started. You'll be honest, she finished. And if he can't handle it? She held my gaze. Then that's something he'll have to work through. The front door creaked faintly. He was coming back in. My heart began pounding again. This was it. No more hiding. No more delay. I took a deep breath. Then another. And before I could second-guess myself, I stepped toward the bedroom door. Ayesha didn't stop me. Didn't guide me. For the first time that night, she let me move on my own. Each step felt heavier than the last. The hallway stretched out before me, too long, too exposed. I could hear Farhan inside now. Bye. His voice echoed faintly. I swallowed. And kept walking. When I reached the living room, he was standing there. Just as tense as I felt. His eyes lifted the moment he saw me. And just like before. Shock. But this time, it was mixed with something deeper. Something more emotional. Why didn't you come out? He asked. I took a breath. Because I didn't know how. The honesty hung in the air. He stepped closer. Slowly. Carefully. Like I might disappear if he moved too fast. Then, start now, he said. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to answer. But because I didn't know where to begin. I don't understand this yet, I admitted. Farhan nodded slightly. Okay. I didn't plan it, I continued. I didn't even think about it seriously before tonight. Another nod. But, I paused. That word lingered. Heavy. Important. Farhan's eyes sharpened. But what? I looked down briefly. Then back at him. But I didn't stop either. Silence. Deep. Unavoidable. He studied me again. Longer this time. Trying to read between the lines. And now, he asked. I exhaled slowly. I don't know what this means, I said. But I know it's not nothing. That was the truth. Simple. Uncomfortable. Real. Farhan looked away for a moment, processing. Then back at me. This is a lot, he admitted. I know. Another pause. Then he asked something I wasn't prepared for. Is this who you are now? The question hit deeper than anything else. Not what I was doing. But who I was. I opened my mouth to answer. But stopped. Because for the first time, I didn't have a clear answer. And that uncertainty was both terrifying and strangely freeing. I don't know yet, I said quietly. Farhan held my gaze. Then slowly nodded. All right, he said. The tension in the room shifted slightly. Not gone. But different. Less sharp. Less immediate. Then, Ayesha's voice came from behind me. He doesn't have to figure it out tonight. We both turned. She stood at the end of the hallway, watching us. Calm. Steady. But this is only the beginning, she added. Her words lingered. Because they felt true. Too true. Farhan glanced between us. Beginning of what? He asked. Ayesha didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked directly at me. And something in her expression changed again. Deeper. More serious. Almost warning. Of a truth neither of you are ready for yet. A chill ran down my spine. What does that mean? I asked. But before she could respond, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Farhan swore under his breath. What just happened? My heart started racing again. This felt wrong. Too sudden. Too perfectly timed. Ayesha? I called out. No answer. Ayesha? Still nothing. A strange unease crept in. She was just there, Farhan said, his voice tense. I know. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the hallway. Empty. Completely empty. My chest tightened. That's not possible, I whispered. Because there was nowhere for her to go that fast. Nowhere to hide. Farhan stepped closer to me. Where did she go? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. And for the first time that night, the fear I felt had nothing to do with being seen. Or judged. Or changed. It was something else entirely. Something colder. Something deeper. Something that made one terrifying thought rise in my mind. What if this night wasn't just changing me, but revealing something we were never supposed to uncover? The darkness felt wrong. Not just the absence of light, but something heavier. Like the house itself had shifted, holding its breath along with us. Ayesha? I called again, louder this time. Nothing. Farhan moved closer, his voice tight. She can't just disappear. I know, I said, though the words didn't comfort either of us. I swept the flashlight beam slowly across the hallway. Empty walls. Closed doors. Stillness. But something felt off. The air. The silence. Even the faint scent of jasmine from earlier seemed stronger now, almost overwhelming. Did you hear that? Farhan whispered suddenly. I froze. Hear what? A sound, he said. Like fabric moving. My grip tightened on the phone. We both listened. At first, nothing. Then, a faint rustle. Soft. Subtle. Coming from the bedroom. We exchanged a quick glance. Neither of us spoke. But we both understood. Slowly, carefully. We moved back toward the room. Each step felt heavier than before. The door was still open. The inside, dark. Silent. I raised the phone slightly, the light cutting into the shadows. Ayesha? I called again. The beam swept across the bed. The clothes were still there. The stockings. The heels. Exactly where we left them. Untouched. Then the light shifted. To the mirror. And I stopped breathing. Bye. Farhan's voice came quietly behind me. I didn't respond. Because I couldn't. I stepped forward slowly, the light trembling slightly in my hand. Do you see that? Farhan asked. Yes, I whispered. Because I did. And it made no sense. The mirror showed the room. The bed. The doorway. Me. And Farhan behind me. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. My reflection wasn't matching me. I stood frozen in the blouse and skirt. But the reflection. It moved differently. Subtly. Like a delay. Or a choice. I raised my hand slowly. In the mirror. It hesitated. A fraction of a second. Then followed. My heart slammed against my ribs. That's not normal, Farhan said, his voice shaking. No, I replied. No, it wasn't. A cold wave of realization washed over me. This night. This entire night. It wasn't just coincidence. Wasn't just curiosity. Wasn't even just about me. Ayesha, I whispered. And then. The reflection smiled. I didn't. Farhan sucked in a sharp breath. Bye. I know. I stared at it. At me. But not me. Not entirely. The reflection tilted its head slightly, studying me. The same way Ayesha had earlier. The same calm. The same knowing look. And then it spoke. But not out loud. Its lips moved. Slowly. Deliberately. And I understood the words anyway. Now you see. My chest tightened. This isn't real, I said under my breath. But even as I said it, I knew that wasn't true. Because I felt it. Deep inside. That same pull from earlier. Stronger now. Clearer. Like something was waking up. Something I had kept buried. This was never just about clothes, Farhan whispered. No, I said. It wasn't. The reflection took a step forward. Closer to the glass. And I felt it. Not physically. But internally. Like something aligning. Or unraveling. I staggered slightly. Farhan grabbed my arm. Hey, what's happening? I don't know, I said, my voice strained. But I did know one thing. I wasn't afraid the same way anymore. Confused. Overwhelmed. Yes. But not afraid. Because whatever this was, it felt like truth. Uncomfortable. Unfamiliar. But real. The reflection raised its hand again. This time. It didn't wait for me. It pressed its palm flat against the inside of the mirror. And for a moment, everything went completely still. Then, a soft voice spoke behind us. You weren't supposed to rush it. We both spun around. Ayesha stood in the doorway. As if she had never left. As if nothing had happened. But her expression was different. More serious. Less playful. You did this? I asked. She shook her head slowly. No, she said. I just helped you reach it. Reach what? Farhan demanded. Ayesha looked at me. Only me. The part of you that doesn't fit into the life you've been forcing. Her words landed deep. Too deep. This isn't just psychological, I said. No, she replied. It isn't. The room felt heavier again. Charged. What is it then? I asked. She took a small step closer. Change, she said simply. I glanced back at the mirror. The reflection was still there. Watching. Waiting. And if I don't want it? I asked. Ayesha's expression softened slightly. You already stepped toward it. That was true. Every step tonight. Every choice. Every hesitation I didn't act on. It had all led here. Farhan looked between us, clearly struggling. Someone explain what's happening, he said. But I couldn't. Because this wasn't something that could be explained simply. It was something that had to be faced. I turned back to the mirror. My reflection didn't move this time. It just watched. Patient. Like it knew I would come to it. Eventually. Do I have a choice? I asked quietly. Ayesha didn't answer right away. Then. Yes, she said. But not the kind you think. I exhaled slowly. My thoughts racing. My heart steadying. Because beneath the confusion, something else was forming. Acceptance? Maybe. Or at least. Willingness. I took a step forward. Farhan tightened his grip on my arm. Wait. I looked back at him. For the first time that night, I felt calm. I'm okay, I said. He searched my face. Then slowly released me. I turned back to the mirror. Another step. Then another. Until I stood right in front of it. Face to face. With myself. Or something close to it. I raised my hand. This time. The reflection matched me perfectly. No delay. No difference. Just alignment. The room seemed to hold its breath again. Ayesha's voice came softly from behind. This is where things truly begin. I stared at my reflection. At who I had been. At who I might become. And for the first time, I didn't look away.